All right, it is August 13th, way overdue. Lake of the Ozarks Fisherman Report. We kind of been stuck in a little, summertime pattern here. Not a whole lot changes, for, several weeks, and a lot hasn't changed. Lake is at full pool. It's been at full pool for, I'm gonna say almost a month. It's like 659 and a half, 660. So it's full, which is good. It's got a lot more structure in the water, a lot more cover in the water when it comes to riprap, especially riprap and seawalls. When you've got 2 to 3, then even maybe 4 foot of water on a seawall, and you've got these big riprap banks that's got a lot of water on them. All that stuff grows moss on it. It's really, really good cover for bluegill and shad. Both they eat on the moss, but they like to hide in them rocks. Of course, and the crawfish do too. But it's kept a decent shallow bite. Yeah, there's a decent brush pile bite. If that's what you want to do out, 15, 18 foot of water, and probably even a little deeper, and some brush piles, isolated brush piles, seems to be the very best, and not real big brush piles, just a small little isolated brush piles, just your normal 10-inch worm dragged through it, or even like a Zoom finesse worm, a little longer one on like a 5/16 crackhead or shaky head. And just kind of drag it through there, or Texas rig, a 10-inch power worm, or any type of bigger worm. I'll be honest though, and I think Denise will back this up. We've been concentrating on just shallow fish. It's easier, it's quicker, and mainly on our trips. Obviously we haven't fished any tournaments for a while. I'm actually going to fish one tomorrow upriver. The what's it called? I think it's called the Ivy Bend. Anyway, it's the Ivy Bend tournament on Thursday up there out of the wet spot. You start anywhere at 6, then you got to be at the wet spot at 2 o'clock. It's a really cool deal. I try to jump in them whenever I can. Me and a friend are going to fish that tomorrow, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. Got out a little bit today up in the river and kind of, looked around a little bit. But, as far as just catching fish right now, all of our trips have been bass, I'll be honest. I don't think either one of us has done a crappie trip for probably a month. You can catch crappie. They're a little tough. I say that. I went out the other day just to mess with them a little bit and caught several of them. I didn't catch any real big ones, but I did catch several of them just vertically jigging on top of a brush pile. That brush pile was in probably 15, 18 foot of water. I'm seeing tons of them under docks. If you'd like to, if you want to shoot, crappie jigs, I'm sure you can catch them. It's just not that the time of year that we really just mess with crappie. So it's all bass right now. That we've got some bigger stuff coming up as far as tournament wise. There's some charity tournaments coming up in the 1st of September, and then we've got the 2-day super tournament BFL in September, and then we've got the Toyota series at the end of September. So they're bigger tournaments of the year. It's their year-end tournaments. The last one's of the year. So they usually have a pretty good turnout, and we usually hit the early fall bite pretty good in September. I don't know about this year. Water temp was 87 for me today. What do you have?
85.
85? Okay, see, I was a little further up the river today, and I had consistent 87, 88 degrees. That's warm,
Yeah.
But all the fish I was targeting was really shallow. So,
So when you talk about fall, you're going to be talking about cooler water temps, shorter days, kind of them cooler mornings.
And what really triggers it is what she said, like, you know, these cooler nights. We'll start having these cool nights that get down in 60s. We might even have, you know, bust into the 50s. And that's usually September, early September, second week of September. And we have some cool nights. And as soon as that water goes from 88, you know, 85, 88, and it drops down to 80, upper 70s, especially them shallows, it just triggers. It triggers the shad, it triggers the bass. You know, I know it's early, even in September, but they know fall's coming. The shad seem to migrate into these bigger creeks, and they start running in the center of these creeks, and they'll get to the very backs. You know, if we have a good rain, that gets some good water flowing in the backs, that really helps out. You know, it stirs up stuff, it gets minerals, oxygen, everything in the back, and shad seem to really go to the backs. You know, I've been trying to target really shallow stuff, even in the backs. It's not quite there. I mean, it's happening. You can do it, and you can have success, but you can also, like today, not have a very good day doing it. You know, I caught probably 3 or 4 in the backs, just flipping shallow docks, and then I caught just as many, probably more, running main lake stuff, some main lake docks, and then some topwater stuff off main lake points. You know, kind of steeper stuff, but I've been switching it up too. I've been favoring some of the flat stuff that's still to come. Once that water starts cooling, these main lake flats start holding a lot of shad, and then those docks will really hold, you know, some fish. You know, a lot of bass as the shad are up on them flats, and then the bass get up on there and follow them around.
Yeah, I was fishing some main lake, a lot of main lake stuff today that were shallower, like boats in 10 foot of water. And having
a good cast off the
good cast off the
so that's not, you know, it's fairly flat, but with the water being up and staying up, that shallower water tends to grow a lot more moss, which is going to attract the shad and the bluegill and stuff. So, you know, you just I'm not going to say we're in transition yet, because we're really not.
No.
That really hasn't started. Give it 2 more weeks. I'd say the 1st of September, we really start transitioning from summer to fall. It's early fall, but it's just like spring. You'll have your first ones that will really respond to just a little bit of cool down on the water, and you know, I'm really looking forward to that.
We probably need a 10 degree.
Yeah, 6 to 8 to 10 degrees is a lot, but 6 to 8 degrees drop. That when that water is going the opposite way of rising, it just triggers everything. You know, we're seeing some shad. We're seeing big balls of shad. We're seeing them out on main lake, but we're starting to really seeing them work these the center of the creeks, the big major creeks, just like normal, just like every single year. There's just a migration to these creeks, and you'll see them. They'll line up. The shadows just fill the centers of these creeks. And the key, I think, to the concentration of catching fish or bass is finding where the bass are located in acquaintance to where the shad are. You know, most of the time the bass will push the shad towards the backs. You know, it's easier for them to feed on. They keep kind of corralling back in there. That really hasn't started yet. I don't think there's enough bass really all doing the same thing in these creeks to really do that just yet. But there's several. You'll see balls of shad, and you'll see fish feeding on them when you're looking at them, you know, with the electronics. So you know they're in there feeding on them, and you catch them too. You're catching them. I would say the majority of the shad and bass are probably half to maybe 3/4 of the way back in these creeks. You know, these bigger creeks. You know, so.
It makes me think of when you're in those creeks too. you're saying the shad are kind of, majority of them are kind of in the center, moving their way to the back, so it makes me think of those docks that stick out,
Right.
for, closest to the middle of the cove.
Exactly.
That a lot of times you typically.
What she's saying is the docks. If you look on both sides, whatever, you'll see a lot of docks, and you'll see 2 or 3 docks that are just the oddball docks, and they stick out. It might be 3 foot, might be 6 foot further than all the rest of them, and there'll be a concentration of bass normally on those docks, the dock braces, the dock corners, even some of the open slips.
Typically the shade
And
side.
most likely the shade.
Most likely.
If you got some windy on the dock, that usually helps kind of get them fish a little more active. They don't seem to be so spooky. Just a bright, sunny, slick day, they're going to get way back up underneath the docks. If it's kind of breezy, cloudy, they'll tend to roam a little bit. You'll see them out in the middle, busting the shad, and you see them, working.
Which makes you think about the disturbance that you can visibly see in the water. If there's a little bit of a breeze, that they can, that makes perfect sense that they can roam a little bit more around those edges and kind of try to target, try to, I guess, kind of, attack those shad.
Yeah, they're sitting out there. They want to be under a dock, have an ambush point, so they're going to hang on those docks, especially when it's sunny, and wait for them shad to get blown over to them, or just not necessarily blown, but just kind of work. As they work through the cove, they'll work closer to one of those docks that stick out, and then that's where they're going to come out, and where they're at least posted up waiting on that. So obviously you can throw top waters, chug bugs, chopos, Cincos, swim a jig by it, flukes by them. That's kind of just to catch fish. You'll catch keepers out there. Don't normally catch any real big ones out there, but it is good for 15 to 17 inch fish. I had a nice 3-pounder today on a Cinco on one of just what we're talking about. A dock that kind of stuck out close to these shad. The shad were kind of out in the middle, and I skipped a Cinco right up to the shady corner and just let it sink by itself. And he took off and got it. And he was pushing 3 pounds, so that's for that particular pattern. That's a pretty good fish. The bigger fish we've been catching, when we do catch a big fish, I would say it's been on topwater. Would you agree? Topwater and flipping.
Yes.
But Denise has been on a real good topwater bite. I would say, Tantera to the Gravois. Wouldn't you say that stretch?
Yeah.
Kind of concentrating in that stretch. Just her trips have been in either out of PB2 or out of Shawnee. So been kind of favoring that and having good luck. So what have you been doing with the topwater? What are you looking for to throw it on? What type of banks? Because there's every type of bank on the Ozarks, especially when the water's up high now. Is there anything certain or anything key that you're looking for before you start working a bank?
I would say the key is your big chunk rock, main lake, shallower, kind of a shallower point, and typically if it's a long stretch, it needs to be more like a smaller isolated
Point. Yes.
that you can work fairly quickly. And when I say that, that would be I'm going to work the side of it, the point, and then the other side of
Which
that
makes
point.
perfect sense that instead of a big, long, round, sweeping point, more of a defined, definite, sharper point. And I found the exact same thing. You always catch a fish on those sharper points, smaller, just smaller defined point than a big long point. It seems
Kinda
like it kind of concentrates them, isolates them up on there. So what's been your best bait?
this Chapo has been excellent. They'll either you kind of have to, like today's trip, we threw the chug bug all morning. There have been mornings where they're chasing. There's mornings where we throw one of each and kind of see what they. But typically, since we've done the last report, it's either a Chapo or a chug bug is typically
So she's
getting
concentrating on either a moving bait, which you throw it right to the bank, and that thing's like, booking out from the bank, where they have to chase it out in a good reaction, or a chug bug or a spook, or pop bar, anything that you can throw right on the bank, and then pop it really slow, kind of pretty erratic. Have you been through? Pretty erratic. Make it rattle. Make it spit some water, and keep it kind of in a strike zone, which is going to be from the bank out. I'm going to say 6 foot. If you keep that bait there and pop it and rattle it and make it look like a wounded shad or a bluegill, if there's a fish around, they're going to come a long ways and they're going to hit it. Like she said, some days
yeah.
they're really aggressive, and this is going to hold true from now through the end of October, early November.
Oh, yeah.
Some days they're chasing, and you want to throw a whopper plopper, Chapo, buzz bait, something that when it hits the water, it's leaving, and they'll pounce on it when they're really aggressive and chasing. But other days, you just got to sit on top of them. You got to torment them. You got to make them see that bait, and you got to just entice them so long that they can't resist that easy meal, like of a chug bug or a spook or a pencil popper, something that's right there in their face. It stays there. They can't stand it, and they're gonna come get it.
I don't think you can overwork those baits, those walking baits.
Right.
Your main thing is a slow retrieve back. You're not in any kind of hurry. I mean, it's just pop, pop,
right.
pop. So.
Right. With the chug bug, it's just a slower retrieve.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times if we're throwing the Chapo or whopper popper or buzz bait, and we're getting a lot of swirls or a lot of sharp strikes or a lot of headbutts, that's just our key, that they're just not overly aggressive, and that's when we'll throw the chug bug or a spook, something that's slower, that when they hit it, they're going to get a mouthful of it, and you'll get a better hookup. So,
and typically been finding that if they miss that chug bug, we've just pretty much thought that those are just smaller fish. That I really think that's what we're seeing, and that's what I'm seeing. So if you cast that chug bug and you're working it back, and if they get a hold of it, you'll hook them up. You got
one thing about chug bug compared to a bait you're retrieving, I don't know about you, but it seems like if I get one swirl and miss a buzz bait or Chapo or whopper, that's it. I'm done. He gives me one shot. But a chug bug, if you're working it and he comes up, misses it, and you just keep working it, that steady pace, they come back. So it's a good bait that they'll come back on a chug bug. They'll chase it and hit it 3-4 times all the way back to the boat. So I personally like the slower bait now. As we get a little further into the fall, then a bait that I'm retrieving a little faster. I can cover a lot more ground, and these fish are a little more aggressive as we get a little closer to the fall.
One other thing I want to say about the chug bug is typically you're watching your bait as it's coming back, and they'll knock it, they'll miss it, and you just have to you can't jerk it, you can't pull it away from them. And I think that's probably the hardest thing to do, is to make sure that if they miss it and they don't get a hold of it, continue to work it, and they typically do, like you said, they'll come back.
Come back
and get it.
You know.
Yeah.
So, she's showing the Chapo, the buzz bait, like the crackgator. This is a half ounce X bite with the frog on the back of it. What do we call it?
Toad.
X toad.
X-toad.
X toad on the back of it, and it's probably the only time of year, this time of year, that I'll either throw a 3/8 or a half compared to the big 3/4. Just because the shad are small, the bluegill are a little smaller. It just seems like it gets a little better response, or a little more bites. So, I'll start with the X bite with the X toad on the back of it. Throw it right on the bank, right along shallow docks, and just throw it up there and just retrieve that thing. As soon as it hits, get it retrieving, and it don't take long in the morning or in midday or even in the afternoon to throw a topwater to see if you're going to get bites. If you throw it for 45 minutes or an hour and you don't get a bite, you might as well put it down. But there's some days, and it can be cloudy days, it can be sunny days, when they're on a topwater bite and you see the shad up at the surface and they're working the surface, you can throw topwater. And you can throw it all day and you can catch them all day long on it, So
One thing I want to mention is I do think if you can run that top water in the morning for about 3 hours, it kind of seems like that window is about 3 hours. But what I want to say is, a lot of times when that sun's coming up and you don't have those roamers that much, like kind of what you were saying, is you might want to look to the shade,
right.
And kind of get the
You
fish.
start, basically what we'll do is, in the morning when it's all shaded, we'll run pretty much anything. But once midday or even late day, noon or later, then we're chasing the shade down the banks. We're looking for that, where on points where the shade line comes off of that point, and we kind of work into that shade. Obviously, for obvious reasons, they're going to favor the shade a little more, or even the shade line. So you kind of got to run them shade lines to see, if you can get that topwater bait to work. So obviously that's our topwater baits, and that's kind of where we're throwing that. If the topwater's not working, we've been playing with a lot of different stuff just to catch a lot of fish, and the Cinco has just been deadly from May, and still now is catching a lot of fish. Maybe more than anything else right now. And you're basically throwing on the same banks.
Yes.
And the bigger rock, the riprap is really kind of what we're targeting. Anymore at the Ozarks, the only big rocks and consistent amount of rocks you have on the bank are these riprap, banks. And right now with the lake being full, they're all under the water, from the bank out 4 foot of water, there's rock, which is plenty water to hold these fish, So we've been running that top water as long as we can because our better fish have been on that. But when that kind of slows up, we've been throwing a wacky rig. I'll let her show you what's your whole setup here. You got, I know that's a 7-foot Falcon.
7 foot medium action Falcon rod set up on a spinning rod, spinning
15
reel with the
yellow
15
braid.
yellow braid, and then a 12 pound leader. And then I have been throwing it on, Jim has been too. I've got an 8 ounce wacky head, and that's the Gamakatsu. They come in a 3-pack, but it looks like I put more in a pack. But and we're using the 4-inch Cinco.
And we've been stocking up on every brand. The Yamamoto really seems to be the best. It sinks a little faster. It's a little more. It's real soft. But you catch one fish, If you get 2 or 3 fish out of one Cinco, you're doing good.
Yeah.
You just go through so many of them, almost too many of them. It's nothing to go through 3 or 4 bags in a 4-hour trip.
Yeah.
With the Yamamoto Cincos.
Right. And basically you can kind of move it around where you put the hook in different places, but typically it can come off real easy or it comes off on the cast. But anyways, this has been, and Jim was talking about the fact that a lot of this is used on the same bank where you were also throwing that topwater bait. And so your isolated points, small isolated points, and this can be, typically I'm scanning and seeing where those fish are and seeing if there's ledges there, and able to work this bait off those ledges. And
A little bit steeper bank, ledgier bank seems to be holding a little more bass. So, you know, where you're throwing that Yamamoto 4-inch, also throwing the Yum. The Yum holds up a lot better. It's not quite as soft, but what I'll do with like the Yum and the Yamamoto, or any of the Cincos, you know, Bait Cave makes them. Everyone makes a Cinco, but especially when it's hot and sunny, I'll get my pack out and I'll throw it on the front deck. And I'll just let it set out there where it is soaking up that sun, and it gets hot, and it'll melt the plastic, but it softens that plastic up, and it becomes soft and very limber and very flexible if you get them hot in the bag. So I'll let them.
Which is I think it limbers up. I think it helps the presentation of the
Absolutely.
worm.
The better,
because
the better, or the less you have to move or twitch that bait and give it a lot of action, the better you are. Just like we were talking about chug bug or chapo, this bait you can throw it and it sinks real slow, and you twitch it and it just stays in that strike zone or that area longer. If these fish are roaming, if they're watching, if they're looking, it just gets a lot of bites, you know. So if you're gonna let them sit out on the front deck and soften up, you know, that might be when I'll spray a little juice in there, whether it be like Jack's Juice or Strike Force or what's the other one?
Bait fuel.
Bait fuel. There's a lot of different scents out there, and different ones have their different I don't know what you want to call it, flavors, and you know, bass react different to different ones. So you may try to spray some in there, zip it up, throw it on your front deck, let that sun bake that stuff in there, soften them baits up, and it's going to do a lot better as far as just getting some bites. Now she's been throwing it on the weighted head, and believe it or not, I've been throwing it without a weight. So I'm just throwing that #1 hot hook with the 4-inch Cinco, and you can see you see how much that moves, you know, when you're just shaking it. So you imagine that thing sinking down around a fish, and you shake that thing like that, they can't stand it. It's an easy bite, and yeah, we catch a lot of non-keepers, but we'll catch a lot of keepers. A lot of keepers. Yeah. It surprises you how many. But you know, you're throwing these points looking for 4-pounders with topwater, and they quit hitting that topwater. But you throw something like this up there, a 4-pounder's going to grab that too.
Right.
So it's just a really good bait, especially now, and that'll hold up through, you know, November. If you're fishing the BFL or a Toyota and you're a co-angler, there's no way I would not be throwing a 4-inch Cinco up on the banks, around any docks and dock corners, dock braces, anything like that. There's no way you throw this all day and you don't catch a limit. You might have 5 pound and a quarter Kentuckys, but in September that gets you the second day. and you might have you have your 3-pounder, a couple keeper largemouth, and a keeper 3 keeper Kentuckys. You're good to go for the second day. So that 4-inch Cinco, weightless, or with the 32nd or 1/8 weight thrown to the bank. It's the easiest bait to throw. You can throw it up there. You can reel it, swim it real slow, twitch it. You can throw it up there, let it sink to the bottom, lay there, give it a twitch. You can throw it on big docks, main lake docks, docks over deep water. Throw it up on the corners and just let it sink down. Watch that line, twitch it, and that the fish will grab it, and then you hook them up. It's a great hookup ratio, and very few fish do you lose on that little rate.
It's a great bait for meeting your ability. It doesn't, if you don't fish very much, or if you are, out there a whole lot, basically being able to, one of the big things is the yellow braid does give you that visual that adds more to your ability to sense that bite. And it again, kids can throw it. Anglers that don't fish very, once a year they go out, or what. It's just a really versatile
It's a good bait
for
from beginner to seasoned tournament angler. If you want to catch fish and keepers and you're struggling, that bait right now will catch you some fish. What was I going to say about? I don't remember. But either way, it's just if you're dock fishing or if you're bank fishing, it's a bait you can throw and catch fish. From the dock. If you're walking out the dock, anywhere out in the middle when they're around these shad, schooling shad, let that thing sink down through them shad. You catch them. You skip that thing all over the place. You skip it underneath cables, skip it under that foam. It's an extremely effective bait.
And this time of year too, you've got a lot of trees that are hanging down in the water.
With that lake up, you've got a lot of trees, exactly, that are hanging
so you can,
over the bank.
It's a great way, you're talking about skipping. You can skip underneath those branches that are really close to the water, and that's just another way.
So that's kind of what we've been doing. Main lake, just inside the points, steeper banks, rocky banks. So that's that pattern. Then it's just kind of starting. It's there. You got to work extremely hard at it right now, and not be looking for a lot of bites, but quality bites. And that's flipping docks and flipping shallow docks, rather being little pockets, being main lake little pockets, being back in the creeks, back in creek pockets. That bite's just starting, and it's only going to get better from now, through October probably, early October. And when it comes to flipping baits, I see she's got a shaky head on her. What is that? Quarter ounce crackhead or shaky head with a little mag finesse worm. That's an extremely good, extremely effective, from 8-10 foot of water to 6 inches of water. Flipping that alongside docks and boat slips, alongside boat lifts, shallow corners. Flip that thing everywhere. I've got an assortment of baits that, like today, I was flipping, trying to see which one was best. A lot of times the brush hog, the full size brush hog Texas rig, it gets really good this time of year. I threw it some today. It's just a full size brush hog with a peg, quarter ounce tungsten weight. Well, I said peg. There's no peg on that one. Anyways, flipping that full-size brush hog, sometimes they want that big bite. That's usually when you start seeing them bigger shad towards the back. That's the bait. I flipped it some today. I don't think I got anything on it today, you know, but a full-size brush hog, really deadly in September. Flipping it underneath these shallow docks. And then we got other baits, you know, they're like different trailers, you know, kind of the same jig. I throw a 1/2 ounce crocodile zapper jig, either Ozark crawl or brown purple scales, pretty much what I throw. And I'll switch up the different trailers. Like this trailer here, excuse me, this is a Bojangles Nos crawl. It's kind of got some tentacles on the side, and it's kind of got, I don't know what you would call it, you know, pinchers, but it's a slow falling bait, a little bit slower falling if they're not super aggressive. But I was flipping that today. I caught some fish on with that one today on a 1/2 ounce jig, just flipping it, shallow docks. When I say shallow, we're talking 5-6 foot and less of water. You know, another bait that I've really started throwing here a lot is a crocodile. Well, I call it a crocodile. It's actually an H2. An H2 punch hog is what it's called. But the H2 company actually bought crocodile out, so I'm going to say the same company. But either way, it's kind of a brush hog looking ribbed body. It's probably a 2.5 inch body with some brush hog arms and brush hog tails, tentacles on it. And I was throwing it on a little 1/4 ounce pegged tungsten weight on a 3/0 wide gap hook. And I've been flipping it here the last couple of weeks, and I've had some really good success.
When you say pegged,
with
how
that.
did you,
So
how
right,
did you do that?
that's it there. So, you know, just your
Bobber stop?
stop. You know, you put your bobber stop on first, and then you put your weight on, then you tie your hook, and you slide your bobber stop down to it. It keeps your weight from separating from your hook. You know, when you're trying to flip shallow, you want that weight up tight against your bait so it all stays together and slides and skips on that dock, instead of your weight coming loose from your bait and hitting the water first, and it just messes up the whole program. So you just need that. You know, you can see the setup right there. But I really
Very similar to a shaky head.
similar.
When you peg it.
Kind of, but we're looking at a different bait, a total different bait. You're looking at a straight
sure.
bait that just goes straight to the bottom, compared to one with a little action, kind of slow,
Yeah.
slow moving, not real big, oversized bait. You know,
Right.
that's been really good here lately. This is my first year I've been throwing that bait, and I've been impressed with it. You know, another bait I like throwing is another 1/2 ounce cracker bait. This is brown purple scale with just a single tail trailer on the back, just for swimming the bait, swimming around corners of docks, flipping shallow docks. It's a little faster falling bait because that doesn't drag so much water. It vibrates but doesn't drag the water like that punch hog or that Nos crawl will pull. So it's a little bit faster. When they're a little more aggressive, you can cover a little more water, you can go a little quicker if they're hitting those baits, and you just flip it every single hole and expect that bite right away. You know, there's other baits, Texas rig. Bojangles has another one here. This is called the Cook Crawl. It really looks the same as the Nos, but it's bigger. It's a 4-inch. Texas rig in that is a great bait. This cave crawl makes a 4-inch cave crawl. This one is really nice, really good for flipping just Texas rig. It really kicks, has a lot of big movement with them pinchers. rig it with a 3. You can even slide a 4/0 wide gap hook in there. I like putting a little bit bigger hook in there. You're going to get a little better hookup ratio. But that's at Bait Cave, Cave Cricket, green pumpkin purple. My favorite color there. But it's great for Texas rigging. You know, Texas rigging. I don't know if you're fishing around brush, that works a little better. I don't know, something about Texas rig and jig. Some days they just want something Texas rig. I don't really know why. One falls a little different. One falls a little slower. It's just a little different fall and action when they get picky. You know, so obviously as we get further into the flipping fall season and more people are doing it, the bite's going to get a little tougher. And you got to do little things, change your trailer to get some bites. You know, on the jig, there's all kind of different trailers that work real good. There's the net bait, Pekka-Chunk or Pekka-Chunk Senior, got big flappers. It really kicks. It moves really fast. A little different look. The Berkeley Chigger Crawl. This one is really good. Same deal, double pinchers. You know, you can leave that together and it almost looks like a mermaid tail going down, or obviously you tear it apart and then they're kicking individual. So that's the Chigger Crawl is a really good trailer. The Pekka-Chunk, the Bait Cave, Cave Crawl, you know, they're all good. They're all going to work. They all have a little bit of different action, movement, vibration, something that will trigger the bite. Even the Strike King Rage Tail. That's one. It's got a bigger, longer body, I guess you'd call it. A longer body, sticks out a little further. You can Texas rig this or put it on the back of a jig. A little bigger profile, kicks a lot. So there's obviously a ton of baits on the market. They'll all work. They just all have their times. When one works just a little bit better, and we all know that little slight difference or detail makes a world of difference when the bite gets a little tough or finicky. You know, bright, sunny, calm days. Or fishing pressure, you know, I guess I would say. So, you know, that's really, honestly, that's about what we're doing right now. You know, we're running a lot of top water because it's getting bites and it's getting good bites. You know, the Cinco getting bites, the jigs are getting bites. The worm, we've messed with the worms in the brush pile a little bit. That's kind of hit and miss. You know, you can catch them out of brush piles though. But honestly, we're staying a little bit shallower than that to catch our fish right now. Other baits that are definitely players and will continue to be players is like a square bill, just a real small. Let's see here. See what I'm doing? There we go.
Younger eyes.
Yeah, so just a small little square bill, you know, that will run a foot to 3 foot. I think it's a 1.5. You know, a little bluegill pattern. Throwing it on probably 10 or 12 pound test, and just throwing it back on these flats, all these flats, 5 foot of water and less around laydowns. Around that grass, there's a lot of grass in the water. If you see shad in the backs, you can just fan cast the whole flat back there. Shallow docks, open slips. Throw that little crankbait up in there and crank that out there. You can cover a lot of water. It'll definitely get the bites. Obviously, it's an active bite when they're really active, but that's definitely a good bait to throw now. Other baits, your rattle trap. it's coming. It's still a little early, but a rattle trap, just fan casting back on these flats. If you see a lot of shad back there and you see the bass actively busting those shad, a rattle trap, you can throw it out there, rip it through there, you can yo-yo it, you can start it, stop it, and you'll catch a lot of fish on that rattle trap in the fall. So just a couple odd baits. Other baits, obviously I threw it a bunch today. I'm trying to make it work. It hasn't just yet, but it will. And that is a chatterbait. You see that one? It's just rigged up. I got it rigged up with a Kitech swim bait on the back. There's a lot of different trailers, but you can flip that like you would a jig. You can burn it where you would throw a topwater on points. You can skip docks. You can work windy corners, lay downs. Nowhere you can't throw a chatterbait. It's basically just like a spinnerbait, but in the fall it'll get a lot of bites. So that's another bait if you want to just throw a moving bait.
Good.
So that is about I think what we have covered. You can see we've got these sun shirts on from AFCO. I'm a big I don't like sunscreen. I don't put it on me. I don't like the spray. I don't like it on my skin. I don't want it absorbing into my skin. Call me paranoid, call me whatever. I don't like it. But I wear a long AFCO shirt. Protects me from the sun all day, every day. And it's extremely cool. Like today, I took some water and put it on me. I put it on my back, and I was cool. A lot cooler than if I'm out here walking, cutting my grass without a shirt on. I'm a lot cooler in the water with a sun shirt than no shirt or a t-shirt. So that's just my way of taking care of my skin and not getting burnt. The AFCO sun shirts are extremely good for that. I think we've got
And they come in,
every color, camouflage,
half my closet
whatever
is-
you want.
Yeah. For the ladies, they have V-neck, or they have the round the collar, and
if
typically
you're into being in the style and all that, you got it.
typically I wear
put
a
a shirt
tank,
on,
an
a long
AFCO
sleeve,
tank top
and you're good to go.
underneath, and then as I go through the day, sometimes I'll take that longer sleeve shirt off to just kind of, and then I'll put it back on.
Right.
Yeah.
You got it. Yeah. But no, so we're getting in. We're in summer. We're kind of leaning towards the end of summer. We'll start a good transition here. In a couple weeks. I haven't really looked at the forecast. I know it's going to be hot this week, but as soon as we start having these cool downs, major big cool downs, it's just like these major warm-ups in the spring. We got the opposite now. As soon as we get some cool downs, these fish, it's going to trigger everything.
Oh yeah.
Like she said, the shorter days, and they're going to start going to the back. The bass are going to start feeding a lot heavier. You'll have, we've got a lot of fish shallow, and you got a lot of fish that are kind of out deep in these brush. They're going to move up too. So then we're going to have twice the fish up there feeding. They're in competition with each other. They get a little more aggressive. So that'll start in a couple weeks. But either way, it's coming. It's a really good. It's a fun time to fish. You catch a lot of fish this time of year. There's a ton of different things you can do to catch fish, catch numbers, or just catch size. When you're looking for size, this time of year, you're probably going to catch 4 to 7 or 8, good, big, solid fish. Or if you're looking for numbers, we've had 25, 30 fish days here lately, but they're everything. They're, 12-inch to, 3-pounders, 4-pounder mixed in there. Just a lot of fish. You got to go through a lot of them, but it's fun. So it's all coming. You just kind of got to get in a mindset of what you're looking for, what you want to do when you're down here. You want to catch a lot of fish, catch a lot of numbers, you can target that. Or if you just want to catch a big fish, we'll do that, you know, or you can do that. So either way, Denise and I, we work together, obviously, and we work together with a lot of other really good quality guides on the lake. So if you have any kind of guiding needs, you want to get out, do some fishing, get some things scheduled so you don't miss out for that fall bite, give me a call at 573-204-9005 or Denise
At 314-226-3099.
and we'll plan a trip just for you. We'll pick you up on your dock. We'll pick you up at a resort. We'll make plans to meet at a boat ramp. We'll fish wherever you want. If you got an area of lake you want to fish, that's where we'll fish. Or we'll take you to where we think the bite's the best. So either way, we really plan our trip around what you're wanting to do, what you want to get out of the trip. Whether you want to be learning, you just want to catch fish, you want to see the topwater bite, you want to see the shallow flipping bite, the wacky rig, skipping that thing. If you've never skipped in your life, in about 20 minutes, you can skip the best with anybody with the wacky rig set up on a spinning rod and reel with some braid and a leader. I promise you, you can skip that thing way back in where you never thought you could, where the big fish live. So give us a call and we'll plan a trip around you guys and get out on the water. Oh yeah, one more thing. I want to thank the folks up there at Grace and Grit. They made us this really cool lake dill guide service. They're up there in Lori. They got a lot of really cool, unique Lake of the Ozark novelties, gifts. We bought a really big lake map, the whole lake map, super detailed for our deck down there. Had that made, and when we showed up to pick that up, the owners had that really cool sign for us made up, and of course we had a perfect place for it right here.
Yeah.
But they've got all kind of cool, really cool.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound bad, but more like upscale, really good quality
Great apparel too.
apparel.
Purses.
Just really neat novelty stuff for Lake of the Ozarks, gifts for yourself,
Christmas
for
gifts.
Christmas gifts, for birthday, whatever. If you just have somebody you want to give a gift for, or not apparel, but for your house.
Home decor.
Home decor for your house. That place, Grace and Grit, up there in Lori.
Basically right at the light. Basically the
Yeah,
only light in Lori.
Yeah, just south of the 05 intersection in Lori. So you can't miss it. It's on the south side of 5, right there. Grace and Grit. You can't miss it. But it's worth the drive. It's
one of our
worth stopping
favorites.
in there if you're down here at
And
the lake.
thank you again for our
Yes.
stop.
So, other than that, I think that about covers it for right now. Boy, we seem like it's been forever since we've had a report, but
Which we do kind of talk about that. I mean,
honestly, things just haven't
things have to change.
really changed a whole lot. They're going to start though, just like spring. They're going to really start changing a lot here in a couple of weeks.
Right.
So we'll keep you updated to that. So other than that, thanks for tuning in. Shoot us an email. Give us a comment. If there's anything you need us to touch on or you want to see, please leave us a comment. And other than that, we will see you next time.
All right.